Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We ring our bell as we gather and bring us into community. And as we ring it this morning, first I would like us to acknowledge that the back door is now a wooden door because this sanctuary was broken into before choir rehearsal, just in the hour before, and Drew discovered it, but everybody came together, repaired the door, everything is now safe, and it is sanctuary once again. The other thing as we ring the bell is to remember in appreciation and our wonderful Diwali celebration last night, and today is actually Diwali, Festival of Lights, and the beginning of the Hindu New Year today. And also yesterday was Veterans Day, which reminds us that there are people that we owe a debt of gratitude to for our freedom and our safety as we gather today. So let's ring this bell the first time for that. Thank you. Now we ring this bell, our standard 3 times. The first is to call us back into covenant, that is, into right promises. We are on the unceded land of the Mwakma tribe of the Ohlone people. They were displaced, colonized, their land taken, and now they hope to regain their land as well as pass on their heritage, customs, and culture to their descendants, their children. Everything we do to restore their rights, equality, and sovereignty is working our way back into covenant, into right promises. The second bell calls us into relationship with ourselves and one another. Take a breath. Relationship to recognize broken promises, unhealed hurt, lingering scars where being right was more important than being whole. We intentionally gather to invite an ever-widening circle of compassion, commitment, and solidarity until that time comes where we are all beloved to one another. And the third bell calls us into relationship with our children, and children who are here, and then to imagine our children's children, out to the 7th generation, helping us to realize that what we do now or fail to do will be felt by those who come after us. What we do with our lives matters, and a caring world is possible after all.
Good morning. I'm Drew Wilson, your worship associate for today. When I was much younger, probably around 2nd grade, as we were joking before the service, back when my dad was helping to write the Constitution, I really wanted a bicycle like many of my friends had. Eventually, one Christmas morning, a pair of bicycles appeared under the tree, a shiny red one for my sister and a blue boy's bike for me. Now, I should point out for our younger audience that back in the 50s, most girls wore dresses all the time, especially at school. So girls' bikes had a big dip in the bike frame, like so, to accommodate the skirts, while boys' bikes were just a straight frame. Well, as it happened, red was my favorite color back then. I still like it. And I immediately concluded that my sister's bike's color was what I really wanted for my bike. However, as my parents patiently explained to me, boys' bikes only came in blue. Do you think that I was disappointed? Yes. Should I have been, as otherwise it was a fine bike? No, or at least not completely anyway. It's amazing how we can focus on a few things that aren't quite what we want them to be and seem to ignore everything else that is just fine or even wonderful. I bet you know people like that seem to never be satisfied with anything. Don't they strike you as rather grumpy and someone you just as soon not be around? Well, since I stopped, mostly, being one of those perfectionist grumpy ones, I found that I too like to be the other type better. I noticed and give thanks for the good things now more. You've probably heard the question, are you a glass half empty or a glass half full person? The idea is that some people focus on what is missing while others focus on what is there. Well, with my bike, my focusing initially on the color was more like being a glass slightly empty person, grump grump, versus a glass almost full person, or for those who've had fractions, say a glass 1/8 empty versus a glass 7/8 full. Fortunately, I soon got over it as the fun and newfound freedom of riding my new bike took over, and I forgot all about my disappointment in the color. It was a great bike, actually, that I got a lot of joy out of. Our service today will explore this topic and some practices that help. Let us now join in worship together as the loving, joyful community that we are.
Good morning. Very important. So we're going to light our chalice with a little help from my friends. Izzy and Lisa, are you okay to come up? And maybe you could stay here and show the words we're going to use. In Children's Chapel, and for a long time at Mission Peak, the chalice lighting for kids has involved using your hands. I hope you brought your hands, yeah? You're going to need to touch your head and your heart, and you're going to need to hold your hands out, okay? So we say, we are the congregation of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Thank you. Thank you.
One thing we noticed as we were doing this, remembering back to last Sunday's service, the loving heart, the helping hands. What does that look like? We talked about the chalice of our being, that is who we are. Now look at the front of your order of service. What does this look like? The sprout. Just think of that. So our chalice, life-giving, light, growth, sprout, potential, all of the above. The chalice of our being. Very cool.
Good morning. My name is Valerie Stewart. I'm a member of the board. My pronouns are he and she. I am going to start this morning with some announcements. First of all, I echo Reverend Jim. Thank you, Ariel, for a wonderful event last night, creating fellowship here in the hall, even with our open door. So, next Saturday is the black and white auction. It's on Zoom. And yay! And John Schaefer and Julie Gaslin will be our comedic hosts. This is gonna be grand, folks. So in the Week in the Peak, there's a link to get tickets, and we will be sending out the Zoom link Saturday morning, so you don't have to look too far down in your emails to find it. And the link to get tickets is on in the article on Week in the Peak, and will be in an email that goes out to all the members and friends today. So please join us. If by any chance you choose to pay for your ticket by check, would you please send me an email, ValerieMPUC@gmail.com. Our wonderful administrator, Sandra, is not going to be picking up mail for about a week. Her husband has knee replacement surgery tomorrow, so she won't be running around for us. She will be running around for him, and we keep her in our hearts. Instead of Black Friday, consider Green Friday. There will be an event at one of the local parks, a potluck picnic, and stand by, check Week on the Peak for the location as that gets determined, and it will be close to parking and restrooms. Then mark your calendar for the return of the cookie decorating party here on Saturday, December 9th from 3 to 5 p.m. In addition to cookies, our choir director, Vaughn, will be here at the piano to play holiday songs for all. Please RSVP encouraged so that we can have everything ready, and Lisa and Ariel are the contacts for that. And lastly, as you all know, Guest at Your Table is an annual UU event to support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And next Sunday, we'll be passing out the boxes for that, and you'll hear more about that this morning. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are all coming at truth from different paths. We gather together across different identities, experiences, and beliefs to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Together, we see our job is to love the hate out of the world, heal the hurt in ourselves and one another, and to change the world to be the place we would like it to be. If you're our guest for the first time, we welcome you. You have information available to you at the welcome table over there by the door with John. And we use chat in Zoom or the book at near the welcome table there to record joys and concerns that you might want to share with the congregation, which will be read aloud later during the service. We also have a social hour after the service. We'd like to invite you to that. There's a special occasion. We're having a slightly delayed birthday cake for Reverend Jim. Last week was his birthday. He didn't know about that. The worship hosts will give you more information if you're on Zoom about the chat rooms, which will be set up to allow fellowship after the congregation for the folks on Zoom. Someone from our membership team will shortly put a link to our weekly newsletter in the chat so that you can see all the events coming up and encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We also put our welcome email, welcome@mpuuc.org, to request a newsletter or any other information you'd like to have about the congregation. Please turn off your devices if you haven't already. We are so glad you are together with us today. And not last of all, first of all, we want to join with our folks who are with us in Zoomlandia by waving everyone. John, sorry you couldn't eat the cake. It's got butter in it anyway. John's a vegan. Feel the joy of everyone being together in our beloved community. Thank you and welcome to everyone today.
Please rise as you are willing and able to sing a one song.
Though days be dark with storms, and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. When sorrow heals my soul, and burdens make me strong, the troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song, the troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near, the troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know we will go on.
That was beautiful. So I would like to invite my friends who are young or young at heart, who don't mind sitting on a cushion, to come forward and join me for a story. While they're waiting to come, I will say my name is Ariel Smithier. I use she, her pronouns. I am delighted to be your religious education coordinator here at Mission Peak. Hi, friends. Do you remember when we were together last month and there was a box here? Do you remember we called it a wonder box? Because it makes us wonder what could be inside. Do you know wondering is like a superpower? Kids can do it, grown-ups can do it. I encourage you to wonder multiple times throughout the day. So today, right now, I'm wondering something about this box. Are you wondering something about it? Are you wondering what might be inside? Should we open it and see? Can you help me with that? What's in there? A little fuzzy raindrop. I wonder how it got there. I wonder why there's a raindrop in the Wonder Box. I'm going to tell you a story about a raindrop. Are you ready? Once upon a time, there was a drop of water named Higgins. That's Higgins. Higgins was no ordinary drop of water. He was a drop with a dream. Higgins lived in a valley where it had not rained in a very long time. Let's imagine this is the valley. You see how brown the earth is? So all the lovely green grass was turning brown, all the beautiful flowers were wilting, and all the trees were starting to droop. Higgins had a dream that one day the valley would be a beautiful place again. But what could he do? After all, he was only one drop of water. One day, Higgins decided to travel and tell other people about his dream. All the other drops listened very politely, but no one believed that his dream of a beautiful, lush valley would come true. "Higgins," said one, "get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming." Higgins decided he had to do something to make his dream come true. So he began to think and think and think. One day, as he was walking by a rusty old bucket, he had an idea. Imagine this is a rusty old bucket, okay? If enough of us drops of water got together in this bucket, Higgins thought, there would be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers to help them grow and become beautiful again. Eagerly, Higgins told everyone his idea. That's what you do with a good idea, right? You tell everyone. But everyone thought he was being foolish. "That Higgins is nothing but a dreamer," they said. Higgins decided he had to do something to convince the others he was right. So he said to them, "I don't know about you, but I'm getting into the bucket. I hope some of you will join me. Then there might be enough water to help some of the flowers grow." I missed this part. So Higgins ran as hard as he could, hopped way up in the air, and landed with a kerplunk in the bottom of the bucket. Are you imagining the kerplunk? Yeah. And there he sat, just a drop in the bucket. For a long time, for a very long time, it seemed like no one was going to join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was dying and the flowers were wilting, and suddenly one drop shouted, "I'm going in the bucket with Higgins!" And she leaped through the air and landed kerplunk in the bucket. Then other drops said, "Wait for us." And they hopped in the bucket. Do you see the drops of rain heading into the bucket? 10 drops jumped in, then 30, then 50, then hundreds of drops came in from all around. Soon the bucket was completely full of water, but there were still more drops. So they found another bucket, and more drops hopped in. Before long, now this is the part where you use your imagination. There were thousands of buckets of water. Can you picture it? Wow, thousands of buckets. When along came a powerful breeze that blew over the buckets, and the water flowed together to make a mighty stream. Here comes the water. Woohoo! Everywhere the water flowed, thank you, turned green. And guess what else? The flowers started to come back. The power of water, huh? All this happened. Do you see some more water? I hope the water's still there. All this happened because Higgins, that one drop, had a dream, and his dream came true because he knew that although he was just a drop in the bucket, thank you, Jim, enough drops in the bucket make a bucket full, and when there are enough buckets with the wind behind them, then justice will roll like waters and righteous like a mighty stream. I sometimes have dreams about gardens, like Higgins. Some of you were here with me last night, right? At our Diwali celebration. That was so fun. And we talked about a dream of a garden. Do you remember that? Over by where we have Children's Chapel? Yeah. If some of you grown-ups want to know more about that dream, you can talk to the kids about it after service because they know. Right now, how about we go dream about that garden some more? All right, let's go.
So this is a song for the kids. We want you to sing along if you can. Lyrics.
Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine.
Wow. As Valerie said earlier, that guests at your table is an annual tradition of having boxes passed out that we then fill up with money over the holidays for food for people who aren't as blessed as we are. And those boxes will be passed out next Sunday. So this is the first pulpitorial explaining what those boxes, what your donations may be used for.
The Foundation for Justice and the Democratic Rule of Law, Fundación para la Justicia y el Estado Democrático de Derecho, FJED, was founded in 2011, envisioned to defend, promote, and strengthen access to justice and the due process of law for particularly vulnerable groups, and thus consolidate the rule of law in Mexico. To achieve that, FJED focuses on serious human rights violations, migration and migration policy, violence against women, and justice and public policies to strengthen the rule of law. FJED's successes include establishing a regional network of civil society organizations to track the forced disappearance of migrants, providing material support and psychosocial aid to families of disappeared migrants in Mexico and Central America, accompanying the implementation of the Forensic Commission through the Mexican Attorney General's Office, and participating in hearings and submitting recommendations to international and regional human rights mechanisms. UUSC is supporting the organization's project to strengthen advocacy to bolster the Mexican Foreign Support Mechanism, uplift relatives of migrants working for access to Mexican justice, consolidate the work of the Forensic Commission, and continue strategic litigation. The National TPS Alliance was formed and led by temporary protected status beneficiaries from across the United States, combining advocacy efforts at a national level to save TPS for all beneficiaries in the short term and devise legislation that creates a path to permanent residency in the long term. When the Trump administration decided to scale back the TPS program and cancel TPS for thousands of immigrants, which has placed TPS families in an untenable position, the TPS Alliance has worked diligently through this process to change that by restoring the protection and securing a path to permanent residency for all TPS holders. The most significant achievement that the organization has created is new base building and growth among its youth. The youth continue to be involved and are working to grow their local committee. UUSC believes partnering with the National TPS Alliance is important because the termination of TPS is a considerable threat to thousands of people in migration and their families. Alliance for Black Justice in Poland, BJP's mission is to address the inequities Black and brown people are experiencing due to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The organization is deeply committed to Black, feminist, and queer frameworks. Since its founding in March 2022, BJP has provided transport between cities and border areas, legal advice for those who stay in Poland, and connected people with healthcare, safe accommodations, and other material services. Since mass evacuations have slowed, the BJP has pivoted from emergency services to providing long-term support for Black people residing in Poland. BJP plans to continue its work in a few key areas. One of those ways is through an ongoing community building activities and housing and welfare support. BJP's collaboration with UUSC helps the organization boost its public profile. While they currently have an established media presence via Facebook and Instagram, the organization wants to expand to allow them to engage with issues concerning Black people in Poland proactively.
We take up a collection on Sundays for the simple reason that our purpose in gathering is for more than just ourselves. We want to make sure that the ministries that we need, the ones that infuse worth and dignity into our children, our youth, and our programs of learning and leadership, and our ministries of anti-oppression and our work in the larger world are in place to meet the needs of others. So, will the plate be half empty, half full, or overflowing? We hope you will make a contribution toward these worthy causes by mailing your check to Mission Peak UU Congregation at the address on the screen, or dropping in the plates that are supposed to be passed. Let's see, oops. You can also use the bill pay option in your online banking, or drop your check in the Mission Peak mail slot, or pay online with a credit or debit card. Thank you for supporting and sustaining the efforts of our members and overflowing that plate. Members, friends, and staff, your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible.
One of the things that allows us to find hope and meaning, especially in the hard times, is the love and support that we show one another. So if you have a joy or concern that by sharing with this caring community might bring the encouragement of the resilience that you are needing, please write it briefly now in the chat. Please write briefly your name and whether your sharing is a joy or a concern. And if you are here in person, you can use the book that Allison has just moved to by the welcoming table. Please be careful to write clearly, because I have to read it. And if you'd like to place a stone for joy or concern, you may do so while Jay and Jessica sing. If your need is personal, you can also send an email to me or to Barbara for a follow-up conversation. Please come forward at this time if you feel the need.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Here's a joy. Many thanks to Ariel for creating a wonderful fellowship to celebrate Diwali with the beloved community last night. Absolutely. And Julie says, how can we even begin to thank Valerie, Colleen, and John for all the amazing work they have been doing for months to make our upcoming gala fabulous. Joy. Giving them a round of applause is a great start. Thank you for everything. It's going to be fun. Is there anything else? Let us hold all these things in our minds and in our hearts as we place one last stone for the hopes and hurts still too tender to escape our heart. May, for the sake of love, we keep our doors, our hearts, our minds, and our arms open to heal the need. In our readings and reflections this morning, the first is from Gabriel Marcel, French philosopher who wrote the book Homo Viator, which is roughly translated as Man, Human, the Traveler, Introduction to the Metaphysics of Hope. Hope is not the same as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. And this is from Greg Greenway, folk singer, a song that he wrote during the pandemic called That's Where the Hope Comes From. And this is the opening verse. Just a little bit of hope, everybody. A little bit of hope, everyone. Oh, my heart is broken. The work is never done. You can quit every night, tired of the fight. Then up comes the morning sun. But your heart is still beating. That's where the hope comes from. And finally, the poem by Mary Oliver, Wild Geese, which is in your hymnal, and you may know it. And then there's some new awarenesses that came to me actually yesterday, and I've used this poem a lot in using it. But you do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I'll tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the valleys and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, high in the clean blue air, the wild geese are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world calls to you, offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over again, announcing your place in the family of things. I noticed that as she went down, it says, you do not have to do all these things. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. What is despair? It's the absence of hope. Tell me about your hopelessness. But meanwhile, as she turns around, the world goes on. And then there is still your place in the family of things, even with the hopelessness. And now, thanks to Drew, encouraging me to have the courage. That's what encourage, if you think about it, encourage, giving you the heart to do something. And I went, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to do this. But it's a mighty long way. It's a song by Greg Greenway. And so, Jay, could you quickly give us an F sharp there? I could run over and do that. I think that's Drew's pitch. Here's how it is. It's a mighty long way from over yonder. It's a mighty long way.
It's a mighty long way.
From there to here. We're going to take it. Oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. So here's how it works, just as Drew was telling you. Oh, it's a mighty long way. It's a mighty long way. From over yonder. It's a mighty long way. It's a mighty long way. From there to here. We're gonna take it. Oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. Now, if you can't remember those last words, it's too many. Just give us an ooh, ooh, or an ah, okay? Just go along with us, all right. So, ready, and we'll start here. Oh,
It's a mighty long way from over yonder.
From over yonder.
It's a mighty long way from there to here. We're going to take it, oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. Now what can man see? Oh, outside his window. It's a whole lifetime from there to here. And all those people who gave their sweat and their blood so that he could make that walk from there to here. Oh, it's a mighty long way from over yonder. It's a mighty long way from there to here. We're gonna take it, oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. Every child born is a revolution, is a revolution with a song inside. Some won't hear it, oh, some hear nothing else. They'll sing night and day just to keep that song alive. Oh, it's a mighty long way from over yonder, over yonder. It's a mighty long way from there to here. We're gonna take it, oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. Now when you've got a dream, you've got to stand up and shout it loud and clear. What's that I'm hearing? It's the voice of people singing that we will make that walk from there to here. It's a mighty long way from over yonder. It's a mighty long way from there to here. We're gonna take it, oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. So that we can make that walk from there to here. So that we can make that walk from there to here. Yay!
Wow. And now for our closing words. That summed it up. Greg Greenway says that, that the idea for that song comes from, I think, him speaking with John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, and him saying, talking about how he got here, and he says, it's a mighty long way from there to here. Nothing there to here, that space. During my ministry, I've talked about hope before as a central understanding and personal practice. It's a central theme and reference for me in my life. And it's not that I always get it right. I just keep reminding myself to return to the practice. And today is another one of those reminders. I began my write-up for today, and you've read it, saying that my title is not a wish but a statement. A statement of a way of understanding hope that is not nebulous, but one that is solid and works, one that does work. The accent is on works, as in hope that helps us live hopefully and that also does actual work. If the title were a wish, it would sound like, I hope that works, or whoa, I hope that works. So today's focus is less on the that we hope for. It is less on the hope that reaches to some future where its hopefulness depends on getting there and the likelihood of the prospect of getting there. Today's focus is more on a working understanding of hope that we live, whether that works or not. It is hope that then fills in the hope of our lives between here and the hopes out there. Mighty long way from there to here. But by living the hope that works, we also will be living toward the that we hope for, whether we succeed or it arrives or not. And by doing so, we will live more hopeful lives, whatever's going on out there. And with practice, we will then notice more moments that we frame as hopeful. And we then literally make each day more hope-filled. Whatever the future. And we will be more likely to act and then sustain our actions in the service of our larger aspirations and hopes because we feel the goodness of our lives in the moments we are living and in the joy of life that we experience. Actually, that's all we have to do. And by doing so, together, we will be creating a more hopeful world. Key words here are recognize, notice, and I would say value those moments. In the 2016 General Assembly of Unitarian Universalists, the featured speaker at Ministry Days for about 1,000 Unitarian Universalist ministers from around the country was John Dorhauer, who was then the president of the United Church of Christ. In his remarks as president, he spoke to the need to rethink doing what we call church, or here it might be thought of as the need to rethink congregational life. He said that the tried modalities of transmitting knowledge won't work anymore. That was pre-pandemic, and then we have different, but it still holds. But he said we can't and shouldn't step away from what we are trying to do and be. We shouldn't, he said, despair. That is, we shouldn't give up hope and abandon our project. Our need for faith as meaning is not dead. We are spiritual beings who long to be connected to something beyond ourselves. And then he chose to emphasize hope as a focus for our rethinking. He said we want and need hope. But we want hope that touches hearts. For hope to be real, he said, it must acknowledge what is causing us anxiety. For example, hope can feel like denial if you offer it in the face of the anxiety caused by our ability to destroy life as we know it. He went on to say specifically that his church's current articulation of hope fails to take into account, his example was climate change. And he said if we can't articulate a hope that speaks to climate change, we should fold up. I starred my note that followed. I said, be in touch with John D. about this. We have hope that works. We do this, and I'll explain. As I said before, I think in my introduction, my divinity school thesis was inspired by my work in conservation biology and by my understanding of global warming and climate change. It was also inspired by my experience with AIDS patients when AIDS was that fairly certain terminal diagnosis. My experiences forced me to ask the question, what meaning does hope have when the future seems impossibly bleak and you don't believe in an intervening or managing God? Aren't you glad you came for an uplift this morning? And in response to that question, I came to understand that most of the way we frame hope is a hope that, back to the title again, but with a hyphen, making it one word. A hope that is a hope that the future will be different. We address our fears with hope and hopes. Hope that somehow we will avoid our fears, that the feared outcome will not happen. In a talk titled Hope, Hype, or Practice, Mars Hill college professor Mark Mullinax, and Mars Hill is a college just north of Asheville in western North Carolina where I live. He summarized this common listing of many of our fears this way. He said, how often do we, with the news on, consider ourselves to be at the end of things, the end of civilization, the end of democracy, the end of an era, darkness, gloom, global warming, escalating war, and terrorism? How often do we, and you could add right now, the Israeli-Hamas war, the Ukraine war, you could just start calling out things that add into this list. How often do we end up with scenario after scenario playing reruns in our heads where there is no way forward? And here this morning, I suggest that nestled within our hope that requires these future scenarios not to end up happening is a more fundamental hope, a hope in, hyphenated into one word, hope in. It's not in opposition to our understanding of hope that, but it is part of a both and the and is the part we overlook or discount. There is joy to be noticed, goodness to be felt, and life that's worth living and enjoyable, even if the future can't be changed or doesn't turn out to change. Hope in is a fundamental hope that is not just dependent on outcome. It resides in the experience of daily living, of being alive. It is hope in the face of the anxiety of all our hopes that. It resides in the force of life that is always trying to come through, like the green well, probably not clover, but the green shoot in the picture on the front of today's order of service. Always trying to come through. Creative, organic, life-giving, coming into the light. As Terry King said so simply this week, hope is generative, despair is not. In the same way, joy, the feeling of life's rightness or goodness, not so much thought as an idea, but experienced as a moment of felt right relationship in our being. We had moments of joy this morning with the children's participation and how they engaged with Higgins. We had moments of joy. I had moments of joy in singing with Drew in the morning. We didn't change the world, but it was right there. And it's every day like this. It's basic. Well, it's right there in front of us in moments noticed, recognized, and valued as hopeful. Mark Mullinax again talked about something similar without naming it as a different understanding of hope. When he talked about the importance of noticing, hope means getting in the game, staying involved in life. Getting involved and staying in the game means living a life of noticing, Mary Oliver again, this wild, precious, miraculous day. Turning off the news, turning down the volume of the background white noise, and noticing the children, noticing the first butterfly or hummingbird of the season or the last. Noticing the space between the music notes instead of the notes themselves. Get with it. Stay involved. Hope is a verb with its sleeves ever rolled up. And that's right here too, while I'm doing this, it's important to emphasize the importance of value in this and the power of discount. Our brains automatically go to the yes, but, the bigness of the hopes that. And then we discount all the little ones and the little moments and the joy by what they are not, rather than bringing them into the space for what they are and how they are us in that moment. What is hope? The dictionary says it is to hold a desire with expectation of fulfillment. It includes longing or yearning. It's a lure being drawn out in life. There's also, they say, the archaic aspect of the definition, which includes trust. And I would say that including trust is only archaic in the sense that we don't include that aspect of trust in our thinking or understanding of hope much anymore. But trust is an underlying fundamental aspect of being and being alive. It's basic to how we move through each day. And being hopeless, being drawn out into that, breaks into our trust of our living. Hope in involves a certain trust in life, not in the outcome, but in the way it works and the possibility of experience. We're talking about it's more than a wish or a dream. There is an element of rightness, goodness, belonging that resides in true hopes. How we trust the universe to be. Here at MPUUC, we are oriented to an inclusive universe, inspired ways of right living that center around love and compassion, and engaging ourselves in making the inclusive vision real in our lives and in our world. When we say the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, we are forming a hope. And literally an overarching one, really a form of orientation within which our hopes for right living and livelihood take form. Our universalist tradition orients to a loving God, an inclusive universe, an underlying or perhaps an overarching love. We trust that life is not given form out of fear. Fear, hope that. Our first principle holds up the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Think about it. It's a fundamental trust and hope. One of the most popular readings for weddings, I'm aware of the time, but I'll finish this. One of the most popular readings for weddings comes from the Apostle Paul's letter to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Many of you could recite it, you know. We know it as a writing about love, but remember that it also focuses on hope. Paul begins by listing virtues and then asserting that they are empty without love. He goes on to say that when we get down to the basics, that when life is pared down to the essentials in a sense, only three things are left. Three fundamentals. What are they? There you go. Faith, hope, and love remain, these three. But he says the greatest of these is love. Love never fails. The focus is on love, but he's also saying that underneath all that we see as important, what Thich Nhat Hanh called the dust of the world, underneath the dust of the world, there are these fundamental three. And then he reassures that love never fails. Think about this. What he is saying is itself a hope. Love never fails. So then there's a form of hope that resides in love. Whatever the future, whatever the layers of importance we put on top and the discounts we impose, whatever the hope that, there's always a fundamental hope that remains. Hope in. Hope in's relationship to the more familiar understanding of hope as hope that stands out and is more easily understood and experienced in medical examples. What does hope mean when the diagnosis is terminal? If all hope were only hope that, a terminal diagnosis could only be seen as completely without hope. It would be hopeless. The only thing would be all that's left where there is no hope is despair. And despair is the absence of hope. A minister friend told me about her father who was a physician. She said he gave up on caring when a patient was declared terminal. She said it was like a switch. That's giving up and walking away while faith, hope, and love remain. Moments of joy and love and good life are still there trying to make themselves known. Would you stop loving your grandchildren the moment you had a difficult diagnosis? Would you stop experiencing those moments of joy? Moments of joy and love and good life are still there trying to make themselves known. Life, joy, the sprout, is always trying to push forward and make itself known, given half a chance. Special moments remain. The best way to think about it is there is healing to be found even if there is no cure. During my first years in Hendersonville, Francis and Savi Underhill were two prominent members of the congregation and well known in town, and he'd been a diplomat all his life in Bali and Poland, and they'd moved around and settled in Hendersonville, and they were important people to me. And then Francis was diagnosed with a rare blood disease that was terminal, for which there was no cure. But there were treatments that might offer some extended time, but the treatments were awful. And at one point I asked him, I said, Francis, is life worth it? Is life still worth it? And he said, yes. I can still smell bread baking. To which his wife, Savi, added, yeah, and he has me to love him every day. Love and hope in that works. This week, I didn't share this story, but in our midweek discussion group where we were talking about hope, John Porter shared this story, and he gave me permission to share it. His daughter, Kimberly, was flying home after her mother, Jackie's passing, and she was sitting in her plane seat, and she wrote a poem about this, but she's sitting in her plane seat, and a woman asked her, and she began to cry, just sobbing, and asked her, are you all right? And John shared that she said, yes, I'm all right in my fine place. And then John said that he realizes from thinking about that he has a well-being place. Well-being place. This is from Kimberly's poem, and it's really one I recommend to you, but a woman in the center seat and a gentle question came, are you all right? She knows she will never be, and this is in capital letters, all right again. But she is also fine. Yes, she answers, from the fine place. So let's shift, but it's not much of a shift to think about climate change as a diagnosis. Remember John Dorhauer's challenge to ministers and congregations. In Hendersonville, we now have solar panels on the roof. They went up in 2016 on the roof of the sanctuary, transforming the energy of the sun into clean energy to run the building. And those panels are not our final action or answer. But I would say that they are a statement of and for hope. They are an example of our hope that we can affect the future by what we do, but they're also an example of how we live engaged and well and joyfully in the present, even as we are anxious about whether we are really making enough of a difference to turn global warming around. They are hope that works, residing in hope that works. hope in while also being a part of hope that. It's important not to lose sight of this both and aspect of hope. In those moments when we make the discussion in our business mind all about whether the panels will or how quickly they will pay for themselves or not, we risk moving into only hope that type of thinking. If we stay there and use that as our only reference, we miss much of the hope and the power that we are generating. We fail to notice and value that hope in. That discount means that we generate and experience less hope. We add to hopelessness rather than making it more full and the world more hopeful. When I look at the building, I make a point of noticing, there's that word again, noticing the panels, not just walking by. They make me smile, but I also let myself smile without discounting them for what they might not be, without saying yes, but. And that smile is the joy of participating in right relationship and feeling a little bit of right livelihood. It's a moment of hope in. Whatever the outlook and outcome, it's the hope that brings climate change to the scale of me. So there's no need to close up shop. We can't. We have a message that the world needs. And I'll skip over this part where I go into the anxiety of that's in our world, in us. I was talking with a minister friend about this, and from the events in the news, and I even went back to 2016, and it was right before the presidential race, and it was the anxiety of the news and the tone of the race. And we came around to discussing hope and the hopes and fears that we hear from members, that people are living scared, scared that one particular person will win, and what will happen if that person wins. And I admitted I lived more than a little bit scared and anxious because I felt that everything, the fate of the world, my understanding of the universe rested on the outcome if it didn't turn out the way I wanted to. But as I talked about making an inclusive vision real, and so I voted at that point, you could guess from my religion, and I voted against Mr. Trump. And I said, I will do my best to affect the outcome. And my hope that was my hope that he lost. But just think about that. The feeling hasn't changed. In 7 years, I'm still doing that. But I will not put my hope in his hands. That's what I said. Somebody I wouldn't let in my house, I'm not going to give him my hope, you know. If he wins, I said he will not destroy hope or my hopes. I will be shocked and saddened, but life will and has gone on. I will step back, take a breath, just as I'm going to do today, and then begin to act on what we can each affect. What Wendell Berry calls act at the scale of human competence. Hope in. I will go on living hopefully, noticing and engaging in fundamental hope. I will be practicing hope, hope in, and hope that works. I will not stop doing my part to live in right relationship with life and each other and to help the arc of the universe bend towards love and justice. And as part of my practice, I'm going to do my best to notice and value the hope in and the joy in daily life and not discount it for what it's not. And in the meaning of my small, sustainable actions, whatever the outcome. Now hear Emily Dickinson's poem from our opening centering thoughts, with its fundamental, ever-present sense and music of hope. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops. At all. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. It's hope that works. Hope in that works. I hope this works for you. Just a little bit of hope, everybody, a little bit of hope, everyone. Oh, my voice is faltering, this song is hardly sung. You could quit every night, tired of the fight. Then up comes the rising sun. Everybody starts singing, singing. That's where the hope comes from. Thank you.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Please, well, actually, before this, I might just want to mention that Reverend Jim passed his choir audition. We'll be expecting him on Wednesdays, right here in Cole Hall. And actually, all of you did too, so come on. Anyway, please join me in reciting these words to extinguish our chalice. Let's just go ahead. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hands until we are together again.
What is it you do with your hearts and your hand, like this, right? Hearts and hands. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. And if you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace, and may the peace and strength and hope of this community go with you. Thank you.